Okay, Jim, thanks for joining us today down here at Springwood. Apparently, you're a local. You grew up around this area and you're still here. Is that right?
I grew up a few hundred metres that way, and now I live a few hundred metres that way. And so it's been really good dropping in on Keith and Coral in our neck of the woods and seeing the big savings that they're already going to make from installing home batteries.
He's certainly a keen customer, Keith, isn't he? So he's really happy about his battery.
Stuff. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. What about yourself? Do you have solar at home?
I've got solar on the roof. I haven't got batteries yet.
No batteries yet.
Okay. But obviously, like most of Australia, we're considering it.
Yeah.
And talking to Keith, who's a real evangelist. Obviously, in the designing of the home battery scheme, the maths of it, the economics of it, are extraordinary. So, you can imagine a world where a lot of people in communities like ours are getting batteries installed.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll have to hook you up with that. There is a politician tax though, right? So
I'm not surprised.
So I've been to a lot of different solar factories just in the last 4 weeks, Tak and I have.
Yeah.
Over in China, I've been to a bunch of battery factories, even in New Zealand, going to a factory. And just on Monday, I was talking to a guy that wants to start up a battery, or is planning to start up a battery cell manufacturing factory in Townsville. Are there incentives to bring manufacturing back to Australia or into Australia, I guess?
Yeah.
So,
well, we're very attuned to the challenge of supply, making sure as more and more Australians are interested in installing a home battery, we need to make sure, obviously, that there's enough batteries to go around. And so we have been working through Future Made in Australia agenda. We have been working through the role of battery manufacturing in that. R&D, obviously, but also manufacturing itself. And so those sorts of things are under consideration. Kinds of industry incentives to make sure that we can fill the very welcome demand that's been generated.
So it's fairly early days in that planning?
Yeah, I mean, we've made some announcements already as part of Future Made in Australia, but obviously we think batteries are a big part of the future economy and the energy transformation. And so we're constantly looking for the best way to support the local industry.
Yeah, sure. And having all the raw minerals here, it sort of makes sense too, doesn't it? Right. So,
well, a golden opportunity for Australia industrially, from critical minerals, research and development, advanced manufacturing. We see these as huge priorities in our economy, and we'll do what we can. Obviously, we don't have limitless funds, but we do what we can to try and help.
So the rebate program is called the Cheaper Home Batteries Program. Obviously, that's to get cheaper home batteries in. It's good for the homeowner to reduce their power bill and cost of living. What are the other overarching reasons we had this program? It's a bigger picture here?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, first of all, primarily it's about helping people get their power bills down.
Sure.
And so I think 230,000 Australians have installed a home battery since the program began, 44,000 odd in Queensland, 1,424, including Keith's, in our local community. And primarily that's about helping people get their power bills down. I think on average about 90% savings on a power bill. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But there are benefits beyond that, which I think is what your question goes to. Taking pressure off the grid, making sure that we can smooth out this incredible renewable energy opportunity that we have in Australia, solar and wind. Obviously, the sun doesn't shine all day. And so storing that power, making it easier for people to deploy and use that power at different times of the day, particularly peak hour. That's a huge economic benefit, takes pressure off the grid, as well as the primary benefit, which is getting people's bills down.
Yeah, sure. That taking pressure off the grid, do you think, is there any numbers around you achieving the goals that you set out to achieve? I mean, by the way, the battery rebate, as you know, it's just completely gone berserk. You've spent most of the money that you initially planned to spend, the $2 billion.
Yeah, we're really excited about the take-up. I mean, it has meant that we've had to rebudget for it, but we see that as a sign of success. That there's so much interest and so much demand for home batteries like this one we were just looking at. And so that's a good thing. My job as the Treasurer is to make sure that we're investing in these great programs in the most sustainable way that we can. And so it has increased. It has been more successful than we thought. 230,000 already is a huge number, but a good number, because it means more and more people are realising savings at home, taking the pressure off the grid, achieving all of those objectives that we designed the scheme to achieve.
Yeah, sure. So the problem with the program taking off so fast is, when there's rebates, cowboys come to town and do shonky work, right? And we've seen that in the past with pink bats, from 20 years ago or so. What safeguards are you putting in place to make sure That doesn't happen, especially with batteries.
Yeah, obviously we put a bit of thought into this, and from the accreditation piece to making sure that there's a limit on how many people can install per day, and so they're not rushing through 10 or 20 quick jobs. There's a cap, I think, on 2 a day, and there's got to be proof that the actual accredited installer is installing the batteries. But if you've got any thoughts about how we do that better, obviously we're always open to those ideas.
I certainly do, now that you mention it. So I think inspections, especially in Queensland, is something that's really lacking. They've covered it down in Victoria, down south and that, but up here we're really lacking in inspections. Okay. And I think that's important, not just calling them cowboys, but you get a lot of young guys that start up or just get their accreditation. They're not trained by a proper company, and they're just making some rookie mistakes in the industry. And I think if someone comes to you and says, "Can you fund more inspections here? Please sign that for us." So, that would be great. Well, I've got you another pitch for my mates in the industry. So this rebate has really taken off, and we so much so that at the moment, or even since it started, we basically have had a 6-month lead time. We just can't catch up to it. At the end of the year, it was announced that rebate was going to be cut, and we had 4 months notice. I'm not whinging. I'm in an unusual boat. Not everyone has a 6-month lead time, right? But it screwed me around, but whatever. But just for a little bit of stability for the industry, are we going to keep on seeing changes to this scheme, sort of overnight, when battery manufacturers are ramping up their lines, there's stock all in Australia, and then all of a sudden, I think that's a big fear of the industry, is that the rebate's just going to disappear or drastically reduce.
Yeah, I understand that, Mark. I mean, the job for us is to make sure that this unbelievably popular program, it's great that it's popular. We've got to make sure that we can afford it, that it's sustainable. And so those changes that we announced are still, an extremely generous subsidy, recognising the cost of batteries have come down a bit and trying to make sure that we're incentivising, the right size of battery and all that sort of thing. And so pretty well all of the time the industry is giving us feedback about how it's rolling out. And, it's not our intention to, change the program from week to week or month to month. But from time to time, we obviously need to make sure that we can afford what we've committed to. And that's what drove some of those changes that we announced not that long ago. I think regardless, the demand for batteries, with, people like Keith and others talking to their friends about the savings that they're making and the obvious economic benefit, I think the demand is going to be there regardless.
I think the demand is, there's no stopping this train, I think, at the moment, which is a good thing for the grid, for community and everything like that. So anyway, thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, mate.
Okay.
Thanks for the chat.